All right, let's dive into something you've probably felt, but maybe couldn't quite put your finger on. We're talking about a really subtle but super powerful challenge that a lot of organizations run into, the paradox of power. If you've ever felt kind of stuck, even in a company whose mission you really believe in, then you're going to want to stick around for this. Does this sound familiar? You're totally on board with the mission. You love the values. You feel connected to the purpose. But when the moment comes to actually make a call or take a leap, you just hesitate. You freeze up. It's an incredibly common and honestly frustrating feeling, and there's a real dynamic behind it. And that dynamic is what we call the paradox of power. So, what is it really? Well, at its core, it's a huge misunderstanding between two different ideas. Authority, that's the power someone gives you, and agency, which is the power you have inside yourself. We tend to expect that just because the company has great values, that's going to automatically give us the clarity and the courage to act. But it doesn't always work that way, and that gap is what leads to this widespread cultural paralysis. Now, this paralysis, it isn't just a vague feeling. Oh no. It has very real, very tangible consequences. It can kick off this downward spiral of inaction that hurts not just individuals, but the entire organization. And you can see how these things just stack on top of each other, right? It all starts with decision paralysis. You're waiting for someone to give you the thumbs up instead of trusting your own judgment. Well, doing that day in and day out leads to serious emotional fatigue, self-doubt, even burnout. And pretty soon, you start noticing this huge gap between the values they talk about and what's actually happening. The end game? You get a culture that's totally risk-averse, where the fear of making a mistake just squashes any chance of innovation or growth. And when this cycle keeps going, it just eats away at trust. And what you're left with is a culture of hesitation, not a culture of action. It's a quiet killer for any team. So the big question is, what do we do about it? Okay, here's the good news. The solution isn't some new complicated workflow or another management fad. It's actually much simpler and much more profound. It's a reframe. It's all about fundamentally shifting how you think about empowerment itself. Just look at the difference here. The old view on the left, it treats empowerment like it's some external thing, right? Like it's a permission slip your boss hands you. You're basically just waiting around for someone else's approval. But the new view, that's a whole different mindset. It sees empowerment as an internal discipline. It's a skill you have to practice, like a muscle you need to build. You don't wait for permission, you actively exercise your own judgment, your own agency. This is so key. Empowerment isn't something that happens to you, it's something you do. It's a personal practice, a form of self-leadership. Getting this one mental shift right is what breaks the paradox. It's the whole game.
Now, of course, leaders have a massive role to play in making this shift happen. So, if you're a leader, here are 3 really concrete actions you can start taking to build that sense of agency on your teams.
First, you've got to restore agency. This means you are actively, consistently encouraging your team to think for themselves, to take real ownership, not just follow a checklist. Second, you have to model adaptive mastery. Show them what it looks like to navigate ambiguity and uncertainty with resilience. Be open about the challenges. And third, foster authentic self-alignment. This is about helping each person find that real, genuine connection between their own core values and the company's mission. That's what creates true buy-in. And when this all comes together, when this shift really takes hold, you don't just get empowerment. You get something even more powerful. You get empowered accountability. Now that is the goal. That's the kind of culture we're really aiming for. So what does this actually look like in the real world? Well, you see way stronger autonomy because people feel trusted. You see people taking proactive ethical action because it's the right thing to do, not just to be compliant. You get a culture of adaptive learning because people aren't terrified of trying something and failing. And all of that together builds incredible organizational resilience. The whole company just gets stronger. Ultimately, what you're doing is swapping out that toxic culture of hesitation for a vibrant culture of clarity and initiative. People stop waiting around to be told what to do, and they start acting from this deep, powerful sense of ownership for their work, for their team, and for the mission. So I'll just leave you with this one thought to chew on. Take a hard look at your team or your company. Is your culture built on authority, or is it built on agency? Are you really empowering people, or are you just controlling them? Because the answer to that question, that's the key to unlocking the true potential you didn't even know you had.